welcome to our Maldives budget resort travel guide. Here we're going to compare and contrast the strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons if you will, for 3 of the longest established, best known and most popular resorts around Malé Atoll. The reason we picked Malé was because the savings for the transfers is considerable compared to a domestic flight. When you have to do the domestic flight, the cost is already going to be $700 to $1,000, and all 3 transfers to 3 different resorts was $600 and change. So if you're going budget, better to stay close to the airport. You'll save a lot of money right there. We're going to talk about our personal opinions, each of us, for each category, for each place. So we're going to talk about the room, the eco-friendly practices, the natural environment, the food, and the overall experience. We want to help you guys to make good, informed choices when it comes to the best low-cost Maldives resorts.
The room at Embudu Village, the water villa, was so amazing because of it's bright, it's nice, and the view just gorgeous.
Agreed. We're all in on that.
Yes.
Let's talk about the regular room.
It was quite dark, and it's a little bit further away from the beach, so the view wasn't that great. And we have to walk out to go to the beach. The location was okay, but overall it's fine. It was comfortable. Yeah,
I would agree exactly what Jammy said. The water villa was by far a nicer room. It should be. It's more expensive.
Yes.
The room we paid for, it was fine, but it was definitely dark. It didn't offer much, you know, but you're not here to spend time in your room anyway. Let's talk about room for Bandos.
The rooms at Bandos, it was bigger and it's more light. We have to walk to the beach. The view, not so much, but we're not really staying in the room that much either.
The first room that we paid for, once again, they're set back from the beach probably about 100, 150 feet. So basically your view is like the tree line, more than the beach itself. The room was comfortable. The shower was awesome. The shower at Bandos by far the best. I mean, really good water pressure and set up well. So we appreciate that. The second room, the upgraded room they sent us to, the deluxe room, was nicer again. It was brighter, more comfortable. The bathroom had a better layout. Just, I would say, you know, if you're coming for a nicer room, that one is worth the money on the upgrade because it was by far a more comfortable, nicer room for sure. Let's go to Fihalhohi, the room here. This is their comfort room.
Yes, we have the second floor. It's not like a beachfront, so you usually see a lot of trees. The room quite small. The bathroom was just basic. Have a bathtub with a shower, and the shower is the worst of the worst.
The shower was impossible. The room itself was by far the most dated and least comfortable. They made a big deal during their tour of saying, oh, and you know, don't worry that everything's dated because this is exactly the way our guests love it. They obviously received so many complaints that this place has not been renovated since 1981. Basically, the place needs a desperate renovation. If you own Fihalhohi, renovate this place. It needs it. The pillows were this thin. The bed was a spring that poked you right in your keister. So it was not cool. It was not of the standard that we paid for by any means. We don't have anything good to say about that room. It should be discomfort room. It should be the name of it. It was not comfortable. Internet at all 3 resorts.
At Embudu, it's kind of slow. Then we moved to Bandos. Nothing worked. Fihalhohi wasn't that better either.
If you are working online, if you're a digital nomad, if you're here planning to upload Instagram stuff or, you know, be fabulous here in real time, all 3 of these places, as of right now, biggest thumbs down to all 3, but Embudu, by far, at least it was a functional internet.
Let's talk about food. In every resort, Embudu Village, we got the half board. So we went to the same restaurant every day.
And they do not have an a la carte restaurant. So this is your choice.
Most of their staff there are Sri Lankans. We enjoy the food there very much because Sri Lankan food is so good. They have a variety of food to choose from.
I mean, as a vegetarian, I had no problem. I ate good for breakfast. I ate good for dinner. The food was all tasty, well prepared. Everything sat perfectly in our stomachs. It was a good food experience and friendly. good. And I think it offered excellent value to the price of the room.
At Bandos, they have different restaurants to choose from.
Bandos, the food was amazing. It was really good. One of the things that made it really good, and we'll give a shout out to the guy, their food supervisor at Seabreeze was an awesome guy. He had incredible service, really nice, kind man, and he made the experience really great. The food was awesome, tasted good. Breakfast was okay, you know, and then the a la carte meals for dinner were better. And you did pay for it. It was the most expensive food, but it was very, very good food.
The food at Fihalhohi, we had breakfast at the main restaurant and we have dinner at the bar. This resort is usually catered for all-inclusive.
The food service offerings were very not diversified. They didn't have much, and for vegetarians, less yet. In their defense, the guy who's running the bar where we ate did a really good job as far as trying to find vegetarian options for us. To him, thank you. You did a really good job. To the resort for organizing the menus this way, super thumbs down. Incredibly stressful to the guest, incredibly confusing. As far as the pricing, it was okay. If we had to say where the best food was, what would you think?
I like Embudu and Bandos.
I think the experience at Bandos edged out Embudu a little bit just because of the environment and very, very personalized service that we received. It was really excellent. But Embudu, for the value, is impossible to beat because it was included and the food was delicious.
Natural environment.
The natural environment, the quality of the house reef, the variety of marine life, and just the general natural presentation of the island. Embudu had two different sides to the island. It had a coral garden that was quite a far swim, and then it had basically their close-in reef near the pier. We chose to go in near the pier basically every day because it was super easy swim, and the minute you got in the water and turned onto the reef, which was 50 feet, there was just huge schools of fish. Needlefish, surgeonfish, black triggerfish, just all kinds of fish in huge groups. So we enjoyed that reef. It gave you that National Geographic feeling of being surrounded by marine life. The reef itself was quite deep, so you weren't really over the coral, and the coral that was there was definitely dead. We didn't see really much living coral at all. The reef was in sad shape, and we hope it's going to be rehabilitated with time.
Bandos snorkeling experience.
Basically a reef edge, but it also had a very large shallow reef that you could swim over. Now the thing with Bandos is they had a channel, they only had two channels really, to get out to the reef at this one particular spot. So you sort of had to go out with everybody,
Right.
and you sort of had to choose to come in with everybody if you were going to be in the main area of the reef. Now the reef did surround the island, so you could go past it and come in outside of the main reef area, and we did do that on some occasions. The quality of the marine life here was probably the best. It had super cool individual animals that were like territorial.
Yeah.
We saw a huge, and I mean huge, eagle ray right in on the sandy beach, and I got to swim with him. A huge hawkbill turtle, actually, and we saw him on several occasions. We saw some decent sized sharks here, 6-7 foot reef sharks, so they were the biggest by far, and just a lot of super cool fish.
Right.
It was an easy swim, and it was really, really awesome.
Fihalhohi.
The snorkeling here is the saving factor of this place. It is definitely the thing that's bringing people back here. The reef was by far the healthiest. There's living coral here, there's tons of it. There's whole sections, big sections of the reef that are all live and colorful. The living coral outnumbers the dead, for sure. There was some volume of fish there, not the big schools like Embudu, but here they have, once again, cool individual animals. Sea turtles, smaller sharks, and a lot of super cool fish. We saw a ton of triggerfish here, and they seem to be much easier going.
And it was easy swim.
Very easy swim. It was a great, great experience every day. We were in there twice a day. As far as nature on the island itself, I would say Fihalhohi and Embudu were very similar. They were very natural. They weren't overly landscaped. Bandos completely different. Bandos was very manicured. Everything was landscape designed. It was definitely less natural, but super beautiful.
Awesome, all of them. Eco-friendly practice.
Just because these are budget resorts in Maldives doesn't mean they're any less culpable for the impact they have on the environment. In Embudu, we made an appointment with the general manager, Ramsey, to discuss what the resort was doing, and he was kind enough to sit down with us, give us his time, and tell us about their desalination system for the water. It runs through twice for the drinking water, runs through once for the shower water. Not using plastic on the island. The water is all refilled daily in glass bottles. All the materials that we saw on the island were natural materials. Wood, glass. We didn't see any plastic. I have nothing bad to say about Embudu, and they were in full disclosure of what they were doing and proud of it. Embudu, thank you very much. Mr. Ramsey, you're doing a great job.
Let's move on to Bandos.
We sat down with the GM, Ismail, who was kind enough to give us a full interview with complete disclosure on what the resort was doing. They really went above and beyond. I'd say probably the best of all three, because they had a complete hydroponic garden. They were growing their own fruits. They were implementing solar power with plans to implement even more solar power. Their water bottles were all refillable. Considering the property was manicured and such, their practices were spot on. We didn't see any garbage on the island, and even the deck chairs, the recycling bins, all that was in place, and it was all using natural materials. So that was awesome.
Last one.
The last place is Fihalhohi, and we had attempted on 2 different occasions to make an appointment to get an interview to discuss the eco-friendly practices. When we first arrived, we brought it up with the person who checked us in, who brought another person along who was in charge because the manager's off the island. This person didn't seem to know what eco-friendly practices were or realized they didn't have any to talk about. So basically he said, I will get back to you on the interview, and never did. So 2 days later I pursued them further and was basically met with a cross-armed gentleman who said, we don't have an interview. I am speaking on behalf of the resort because we can only speak on what we witnessed. We don't have any information from inside. Everything is bottled in plastic. The restaurant, in the room, plastic bottled water. All drinks are served with a plastic straw, which you find routinely littering the beaches. They do have solar power lights on the walkways, so that's something. We don't see any evidence of any green policies here or practices. They certainly didn't make any attempt to point any out to us, nor did we witness any. Considering the reef here was the best, and the environment here seemed to be like the most preserved, I'm shocked. This is the only resort where we actually saw plastic floating in the water. We saw plastic bags, plastic bottles floating. Really heartbreaking. It's still a great place. We had a great time, but we highly recommend that if you are spending your dollar with a conscience, that you save your dollar for somewhere that's going to do better with the eco-friendly practices, because Fihalhohi, no. 2 thumbs down on the eco-friendly. So let's get right to the cost of the transfers. The first one was Embudu Village. Embudu Village is about 15 minutes away from Malé. It was a short boat ride, very efficient. Their guy actually found us at the airport and grabbed us and took care of us, took care of our bags. Extremely professional. The best service we got at the airport so far. The transfer cost was $150 total. Moving on to Bandos, Embudu had brought us back to Malé. Bandos picked us up there. We managed to find their representative. We did have to wait a considerable amount of time for people to show up on their flights. Their representative did not help us with our bags. We were responsible for ourselves, which is fine. We're big boys and girls. We can take care of it. The cost of that transfer was a little more expensive at $188, but the travel time was also shorter at about 10 minutes.
Moving on to Fihalhohi.
The cost of Fihalhohi's transfer was the most expensive. It was also the furthest from Malé, so it's 40 minutes south. It was by far the longest transfer. The cost was $300, which made it double Embudu and almost double Bandos. Their representative, once again, was at his booth. He was easy to find. We had to wait a considerable amount of time again for 2 flights to come in And once again, no one helped us with our bags. We were responsible for ourselves. As far as the transfers, those are the costs that you're paying before you even spend $1 at the resort.
Room cost, Embudu Village, it was $250 a night. That included
Taxes, service charge, and the green fee charged by the Maldivian government.
Bandos, it cost us $248 a night. Fihalhohi, it cost us $213 a night.
We're starting off with Embudu being the most expensive, Bandos being just a hair behind at $2 less, and Fihalhohi being quite a bit less expensive at $213. Let's talk about the total food costs. In this category, we stayed at Embudu for 4 nights, actually, whereas everywhere else was 3. But even with the 4 nights, our total food cost was only $72. That's because we received dinner. Dinner was part of the half board, and we basically didn't have to pay for any food there. We just had to pay for our drinks, and they did have a very nice house wine, which we enjoyed, and it was quite cheap. So $72 for 4 nights, very, very cheap. Bandos, this was the surprise. The food cost at Bandos was very, very high. The food cost total was $257 at Bandos for 3 nights. So you're talking an average cost of $86 a day, which was more than the entire 4 days at Embudu. Moving on to Fihalhohi, the complete food and beverage cost was $185. So it works out to approximately $62 a day, which is right in the middle, but still much, much higher than Embudu. At Embudu, we had breakfast and dinner included in the cost. At Bandos, we just had breakfast. At Fihalhohi, we just had breakfast. So we had to cover beverages, and we had to cover dinner at 2 of the 3 resorts in that cost. Let's get down to the dollars and cents of this trip. Now, we are marketing this video as budget travel in the Maldives resort style. Now, this is not to say this is low budget. There really is no low budget way to travel in Maldives. The airfares are always going to be expensive. Even staying at local islands and guest houses is expensive compared to most places in the world. You're going to spend money here. You can spend what we paid for our entire 10-day trip in 1 night, and you can spend that 5 times over in 1 night if you stayed at a 5-star resort in Maldives. So, by that standard, this is certainly budget. We spent a grand total on this trip of $4,410 out of our pocket. That's for 10 days and 10 nights. That's including our airfare from Bangkok on AirAsia, and it's including all our transfers, our room costs, and all the food and wine and cocktails that we consumed while we were here. So basically the cost is $440 a day, all in. If you had to give the best value per place, Embudu by far comes out ahead. Whereas Fihalhohi and Bandos are noticeably more by almost $100 a day, with Bandos being just a touch more expensive by about $20. Fihalhohi had the more expensive transfer, Bandos had the more expensive food, so it really depends on your habits and the type of meal plan you choose. But if you're looking for true budget, all in, cheap transfer, all-inclusive food, my recommendation out of all 3 would be Embudu based on price alone. It beat the other ones and it provided an amazing experience. What do you think?
I agree. The overall value have to give to Embudu because you got the most of the least expensive of all 3.
Yeah, all around I think it's a winner. But if you're looking for $300 to $500 a day all in, you really would do well at any of these places. But I would urge you to vote with your wallet and vote with your eco-friendly consciousness. So that's all I will say on that. Guys,
thank you so much for spending time with us.
It's been a pleasure to take you along on this trip. We're looking forward to having you along on many more trips. We want to be your inside track when it comes to first-hand experience and all the facts to go along with it. If you want to take this trip, we can help you to arrange whatever you need with information. You can get us on our social media, you can get us on our website, and you will find our complete documentation on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, So you'll be able to see what we're talking about in great detail.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Peace, guys.